What is going on, everyone? It's your boy B, Skeletor SG, coming at you after finally experiencing the conclusion of Hideo Kojima's newest brain melter, a game called Death Stranding. Familiar with Kojima titles at all? Curious what the hell is happening in this game? Wondering if this game is worth the hype? Whatever reason you're here, this is a special edition of Should You Buy in 5, extending to 5 to give you more deets on Death Stranding. Death Stranding is one of those games that never really feels like one game. It is an amalgam of concepts, mechanics, stories, and emotions wrapped into one of the most beautiful packages console players have ever experienced. Death Stranding follows the story of protagonist Sam Porter Bridget, portrayed by Norman Reedus, a porter aka delivery man who takes packages to and fro through the ruinous landscape of America and its sparse cities. After an incident known as the Death Stranding, highly irregular phenomenon began occurring involving altered human death and the subsequent occurrence of entities called BTs. Highly dangerous entities, BTs are essentially the souls of dead humans bound to the world of the living, but BTs are peculiar because they are linked by umbilical cord to a type of power source, kind of location idea, known as beaches.
If you thought that was hard to hear, it was painful writing it.
BTs are created after a human dies, but before they experience a rapid state of cellular degeneration, a state of necrosis resulting in what the game calls a void out, essentially a massive explosion capable of wiping out full cities.
And you bet Kojima goes there.
Sam is a special category of persons known as a repatriate. When Sam dies, his spirit has the ability to traverse the seam of death and return to his body. This is a result of a mysterious biological condition many people suffer from known as dooms, varying level of dooms resulting in superhuman-like abilities. I feel like that was the best way for me to describe some of the needed backstory to understand what I'm going to talk about moving forward.
So now this is the plot.
Sam is a porter contracted by a company called Bridges, an agency established by the President of the United Cities of America, from this point known as the UAC. Death Stranding opens up as Sam is attempting to make a delivery to Central Knot City. He is forced to take refuge in a cave after being chased by BTs and their subsequent bringing of rain, which in the Death Stranding universe is known as Timefall. Timefall has rapid aging properties, and everything it touches suffers the same fate, ranging from plants to people. It's there where we are introduced to Léa Seydoux's character Fragile, a doomed sufferer and a fellow porter. After splitting ways and making his delivery, Sam learns of a mysterious suicide in the city and is contracted to help dispose of the corpse at the incinerator. The incinerator is on the opposite side of BT-ravaged lands. The thing is, with BTs, humans need to be properly cremated to avoid void-outs, but also to make sure when burned, the chylarium in the body doesn't attract more BTs. Forced into the open by the BTs, Sam ultimately fails his mission and Central Knot City is wiped off the map, and we learn here of Sam's ability to repatriate and come back to life. It's at this point that Bridges seeks to go into contract with Sam and is summoned to meet the President of the United Cities. The President, Bridget Strand, is actually Sam's mother, who is in the late stage of cancer, and played by the wonderful Lindsay Wagner. Bridges had an initiative to connect the world in one grandiose network where information and technology could be shared easily and quickly over a wide area. In Bridget's final plea, she begs Sam to complete the network. Reluctantly, he accepts, and your journey begins. After incinerating his mother's body, Sam is briefed by the President's right-hand man, Die Hardman, played by Tommy Earl Jenkins. Die Hardman informs you of the fate that has befallen your sister, Amelie, also played by Lindsay Wagner. She was essentially kidnapped by the terrorist cell Homo Demons in the West. Seeking to remain independent, they allow Amelie to communicate with Sam, where she begs him to fulfill the contract he made with Bridget. This is the main box Death Stranding is in, the main narrative, but doesn't come close to explaining the fabric in between. You are traveling from one side of the country to the next, connecting individuals so that they may join the Bridges network and become a United Cities again. That does not come close to defining every intricacy in between. Along the way, your companions Mama, Hartman, Deadman, and a mixture of off-the-wall and regular named people played by a phenomenal cast support you in various ways along the very tedious but highly rewarding story. But don't think this game is simply about traveling. The layered storytelling and experience is one you really have to try personally. Troy Baker takes the role as Higgs, the leader of a terrorist cell seeking to cause the world's 6th extinction event by basically making people void out everywhere. Dealing with those rascals on top of Mads Mikkelsen's performance and sequences were unbelievable. It's in these sections that the game feels like an entirely different game, from stealthy travel to commando third-person shooter from time to time. There's plenty of action and plenty of harrowing experiences, but I don't want to give them away and spoil some of those awesome scenarios. One of the standout roles in the game is your companion character and piece of technology known as BB, or the Bridge Baby. The relationship between Sam and the BB is a very complicated one, and one that evolves as the story progresses. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but BB is one of the most important characters in the game, as well as your mechanism for detecting BTs throughout the whole title. Sam's trek across the country is rife with tough decisions, excellent world and story building, and an exceptional cast with iconic supporting roles, a bit of Kojima charm infused with Japanese culture, and sometimes grueling gameplay. The story of Death Stranding is one that can take 25 to 30 minutes to explain, at an hour if you want a spoiler-filled ride. It takes many twists and turns, many interesting characters to follow, and some absolutely profound story development. This game starts with Sam being this cold and kind of crappy dude, uninterested in the fate of America, but along his journey to reconnect America, Sam is able to find himself within some of these characters. In doing so, Kojima delivers this intensely emotional narrative that had me coming back, craving to find out what the hell is going on. I'll tell you right now, the resolution isn't sweeping, meaning there is answers to the plot's overarching issues, but this game will leave you largely bewildered. As a Metal Gear series fan, I'm used to this sensation as well as the nearly 40 hours required for story completion. It also prepared my ass for the 3-hour cutscene conclusion. But if you're new to the Kojima ride, this game is bizarre, jarring, and unnecessary, and over-the-top character interactions, and is just plain weird, with the story being just about one of the most perplexing experiences that I've had in gaming. The development, pace, and for the most part writing is exceptional, making you feel for your companions, and near the end, Sam as well. Normally, this is where I transition saying gameplay is what will sell you, but I don't necessarily know if that's the case with Death Stranding, at least not for everyone. This game is certainly a craft your own adventure, craft your own fun kind of experience. You've heard through the internet's grapevine Death Stranding being a walking simulator, maybe even a UPS delivery man RPG. I think the core gameplay loop shown and its early hours is to blame for this phenomenon. Being a game about disconnect, growth, transformation, and ultimately connection, this game starts off very limited and your porter skills highly unrefined. As a result, the game is making arduous journeys back and forth, conditioning you for the trying experiences ahead as well as the fun. But once you break into the free traverse zone building point, that's where this game takes off. Death Stranding is one of the most unique multiplayer experiences ever created. Taking a setting that is intentionally empty and desolate, load that with an online ecosystem rife with players and people to build structures. After successful chiral integration, you have this wild player experience of community and companionship unlike any other. Players can upgrade each other's structures as well as leave behind any items including cargo and vehicles at the cost of chiral bandwidth, which is essentially online bandwidth using the energy source in the game Chilarium. In my server, I personally helped develop 27 pieces of the incredibly long road structure on one of the maps. It was a lot of work, but it paid off greatly. Death Stranding will always have a lot of walking, but the structures and gadgets found in between, in conjunction with the online play, will make up for the time on foot. The online function takes this incredibly isolating feeling the game presents and really builds a community and fosters the idea of stronger when connected. This game involves delivering
A lot of packages.
You can't get around that, but this is also a Kojima game. Sam, the packages, and sometimes the human cargo you bring have a myriad of conditions and statuses to manage. Sam has endurance and stamina, which is influenced by your handy-dandy water monster energy drink flask, which is pretty much magic. Sam has boots that weather. Your packages not only have containers that damage and rust, but the contents themselves have their own metric. Completing challenges increases your porter rank, which is influenced by 5 major stats ranging from package condition and delivery time to miscellaneous stats. Your stats are also being influenced by the support you provide online, as strangers can like your constructs and objects left in the server. I said earlier this game is like an amalgam of games, but it's as relaxing and wonderful as Minecraft's. But if you're overloaded on cargo or in a new area surrounded by BTs, the game can be immensely pulse-pounding and punishing. I found myself nervous about tipping off mountains with high-stat cargo all the time. This game is just so many games, it has so many features and functions it's hard to keep up with. The gadgets are a blast, and the tools Sam use are useful, and the ingenuity behind each item is astounding. I'm looking at you, cargo carrier snowboard. But this game certainly isn't without frustration. Quite frankly, this game is super aggravating. The UI and commands are so vast, it's easy to forget about integral skills and options available for Sam. Nearing max capacity on weight is a nightmare as Sam wobbles left and right. Very realistic, but ultra tedious. But this becomes compounded when you have to take a bunch of stuff into the mountains you've never been to before, so planning your walk becomes challenging as no established structures can help make the trip. Physics-based movement makes Sam spin about, and sometimes you'll lose your footing because of weight, causing you to tumble down a cliff, destroying your cargo and gear in the process. The early game is very uninviting and rewards you once you reach the summit of the game, but it does do a good job of putting you in a precarious position and essentially testing you to see if it's worth it all. It's all an amazing experience if you have the patience to enjoy this type of immersion, this type of stat management. I mean, you have to make Sam piss for crying out loud, but I swear, I'm a broken record. Under the tedious elements, the customization and the lack of hand-holding and the truly open and free experience to build and develop as you see fit is top-notch and a reason to play this game. But it certainly is a pain to reach that freedom. The game is not for everyone. This game isn't even for some Kojima fans. There are a ton of imperfections and a lot that I hope changes, but all quality of life. The story and the core gameplay loop will not change, and it overall feels phenomenal to me. It feels like a true RPG in some places, a true sim in others, and then a badass but loose third-person shooter in the other. This was such a hard thing to start because knowing where to begin left me twisted. Death Stranding is one of those games that's just delicious to look at. It's peaceful and the way the world is rendered is immaculate. The still environment is calming and is just a pleasure to stroll through, but can instantly flip on a dime. The weather effects in Death Stranding are top tier, going as far as affecting your character's movement. Every animation, even though they can sometimes be totally unnecessary, is so good. During rain, watching plants on the ground grow and die due to the timefall was one of those things that I never tired of seeing. The environmental responses to Sam were amazing, from the subtraction and deformation of mud and dirt, but the snow absolutely killed the game. It was so good. The animations are superb, and the character acting and digital rendering is digital cinema and interactive storytelling at its highest level. Each performance is so good, it's hard to determine who I love the most. For a PlayStation game, this is the highest tier graphical output, on par with some of the heaviest hitters of the generation. My biggest gripe graphically is the absolute hideous frame rate drops that happen far too many times than not. It made traversal hard sometimes, and you can't make a game centered around walking have hiccups when walking.
You just can't.
But I digress. Weather is phenomenal, but the lighting, environmental transitions, textures were just ludicrous. Watching your gear or vehicle rust to timefall as you progressively use it was awesome and helped me and my viewers feel like I'd accomplished some real work. The individual adoration of Sam and his backpack and the other things that you can customize in the game were really awesome, whether it's charms on his backpack or just looking at things like his hair while ziplining. There are so many micro details to notice about your main character as well as the environment. One of the most beautiful features is the game's mini-map accessed via your cufflinks by the options button. Not only is the map massive, but the actual visual is just really nice to look at. Maneuvering the topography, watching weather patterns, and just basic tasks like plotting routes is both very quick and awesomely detailed. The music in Death Stranding can hit, but in some instances it does come up short in my personal opinion, but one of the best elements of the game is the consistent soundtrack. Many of the tracks being from the same artist really help unite the continuity of sound and really make this feel like you're listening to an album rather than the background to a game. Classic Kojima, when you encounter new music, the game always makes sure to give you time to see who made the song and the title of the track. Low Roars, Don't Be So Serious, essentially the title track is a somber song that really seems to echo the many themes present in Death Stranding. That's not to suggest that the world is without sound, because the Foley in this game is absolutely phenomenal, whether we're talking about Sam running over muddy, rainy ground, or just Sam interacting with any object in the environment, or just knocking some dudes out with cargo. Every sound is on point. Death Stranding's great distances apart means less for the ears than for the eyes. Listening to your surroundings and the sounds of the weather is relaxing, and the chilling sound of BT-ravaged territory is extra terrifying. But the moments in between will really amplify the feeling of isolation. I just don't get why you can't have a music player on the go, considering you can play music in every private room. Either way, Death Stranding is one of the most impressive titles of the console generation. Some optimization to help frame rate would be great, but otherwise you'll have plenty of time to feast on this absolute beaut of a game. I almost feel dirty saying yes or no to should you buy this game. Death Stranding is so many different things at once, but in the best way possible. I'll admit up front that trudging through was hard at times, and the week break was great because of how uninviting the first layer is. This game is not for everyone, and at times it wasn't for me. I'm a Kojima fan through and through, but some of the decisions and gameplay mechanics are incredibly frustrating, bordering on not fun. But there is something truly special and amazing about Death Stranding. It exists in the story and universe, it permeates through the world and the detail, and it resonates within the options and paths available for you as the player. Death Stranding is so far from hand-holding, you miss some of the major features of the game. You can almost lose appreciation for things because there's so many things to keep appreciating. Death Stranding is so good at trying new things it becomes tedious after a while. I feel like I'm crazy for saying that, but it's true. Some formulas of relative games in the genre are totally just thrown out. Genre defining? No. But some of the online elements and techniques implemented in Death Stranding are some that need to move forward in all third-person open-world games. This game is a total love or hate. I don't think the middle exists. After hating it for a while, I fell in love with it. Quirky writing and cultural references I have no clue about included. But underneath all the bad, weird, whatever, is one of the toughest but most rewarding games I've ever played. Good in so many places, bad in so many others. But I think it's worth it to try and actually make that decision for yourself. Based upon reviews and lower than expected sales, I imagine this game will discount in a few months, but be assured you're getting an insane bang for your buck if you buy this at any price point.